Think about the last time someone talked over you. You waited, you smiled, you let it go. Think about the last time your idea was dismissed in a room full of people. You said nothing. You told yourself it wasn't worth the conflict. Think about the last time someone made you the punchline of a joke, and you laughed with them, because that felt safer than the truth. Here is what nobody told you about those moments. You didn't lose their respect. You gave it away. Quietly, voluntarily, one silence at a time. And the most brutal part, they didn't disrespect you because they're cruel. They disrespected you because you taught them it was free. No cost, no consequence, no resistance. Just you, absorbing it, explaining it away, and handing them permission to do it again tomorrow. Machiavelli didn't write for saints. He wrote for survivors. He wrote for the person standing in the middle of their own life, wondering why the people around them keep taking more than they were ever given. He understood something most people spend a lifetime refusing to accept. The world does not reward goodness. It rewards presence. It rewards consequence. It rewards the kind of person who makes it clear, without ever raising their voice, that crossing them costs something real. This video is 7 laws, not 7 ways to fight back. 7 ways to make sure you never have to. Before we go in, drop this in the comments right now. Say, I am done being free to disrespect. Say it like you mean it, because by the end of this, you will. 1. You taught them every single thing they did to you. Let's start with something that might make you uncomfortable. The person who disrespects you is probably not evil. They're probably not even thinking about you that hard. What they're doing is something far more automatic, something the human brain has been running quietly for thousands of years. They're testing you. Every time you enter a new dynamic, a new relationship, a new room, something in the human brain starts a quiet calculation, not consciously, not maliciously, but consistently. It asks, where are the edges here? What does this person allow? How much space can I take before something pushes back? This is not unique to bad people. This is human nature. And here is where it becomes your problem. The first time someone interrupted you and you smiled and waited, your brain registered discomfort, but their brain registered something else entirely. It registered safe to interrupt, filed it away, updated its model of you, moved on. The second time, it didn't even feel like a test anymore. It felt like habit. By the 10th time, it wasn't a test at all. It was just how they talked to you, not because they decided to disrespect you, but because you trained them to. Not through weakness, not through stupidity, through consistency. Every time you absorbed it without consequence, you sent a signal, and signals, repeated enough times, become instructions. Machiavelli watched this happen in the courts of Renaissance Italy. Rulers who smiled through small humiliations found those humiliations growing larger, not because the people around them were monsters, but because unchallenged behavior teaches itself. It repeats, it escalates, it becomes the rule. He wrote that men will always push as far as they are permitted to push, not out of hatred, out of nature. Now bring that into your life. Think about the person at work who constantly speaks over you in meetings. Did they wake up one morning and decide to dominate you? No, they spoke over you once. Nothing happened. They did it again. Still nothing. After 5 times, your silence had already written the rules of that relationship. You just didn't realize you were the one holding the pen. Think about the friend who cancels on you last minute, again and again. You rearrange your schedule. You say it's fine. You tell yourself they're just busy. And every single time you do that, you are teaching them one thing, that your time is not something they need to protect. Think about the family member who makes sharp comments at your expense, and everyone laughs, and you laugh too. Because it's easier, because it keeps the peace. But whose peace? Not yours, never yours. None of these people sat down and decided to disrespect you. They found the edges, and the edges held nothing, So they pushed further, because that is what people do when they find nothing pushing back. Here is the question that changes everything. Stop asking, why do they treat me this way? Start asking, what did I teach them was acceptable? Those are two completely different questions. The first makes you a victim of their character. The second puts the power exactly where it belongs, back in your hands. Because if you taught them something, you can teach them something else, not with a speech, not with an argument, with a different response, a different energy, a different consequence. Machiavelli was ruthless about this. He believed the only person responsible for the conditions of your life is the person who allowed those conditions to form, not the person who tested you for failing the test repeatedly and calling it patience. That is not patience, that is permission. And permission once given is very difficult to take back, but not impossible. Here is what taking it back actually looks like. It does not look like a confrontation. It does not look like a speech where you explain everything that has been wrong and everything you now require. That speech almost never produces what you hope it will, because someone who has been operating within a dynamic you permitted for months or years does not suddenly transform because you finally articulated your feelings. They transform when the conditions change, when the test produces a different result, when the silence they expected is replaced by something they did not anticipate. You do not take back permission by talking about it. You take it back by changing what you do next time. And the time after that, and the time after that, until the new pattern overwrites the old one, and they have learned, without a single announcement from you, that the old rules no longer apply. This is not revenge. It is recalibration. The moment you understand that disrespect is almost never personal, it is almost always a test you have been quietly failing, something fundamental shifts. You stop feeling like a victim of someone else's character. You start feeling like someone with the actual power to rewrite the rules of every relationship in your life. They were never attacking you. They were reading you, and you were handing them the same page every single time. Now the page changes. I decide what people learn about me, because that is the first law, and everything builds from here. 2. The wrong kind of silence is killing your power. You've been told that silence is power, and it is. But nobody told you there are two completely different kinds of silence, and one of them is quietly destroying everything you think you're protecting. The first kind of silence is the silence of someone who has already decided. It's calm, grounded. It doesn't need to explain itself. It's the silence that sits across from aggression and doesn't move. This silence is a declaration. It says, what you just did is beneath my response. The second kind of silence is fear wearing a mask. It looks identical from the outside, but inside, it is something else entirely. It is the silence of someone who wants to speak and doesn't. Who feels the wound and smiles through it? Who swallows the response and calls it maturity when it is actually self-abandonment, dressed up as composure? Here is the brutal truth. Most people are practicing the second kind and calling it strength and wondering why nothing ever changes. Machiavelli understood the lion and the fox. The lion does not roar at every threat. That is true. But the lion stands, and the way it stands communicates something that cannot be misread. There is no confusion about whether the lion is comfortable. There is no question about whether you can cross it without consequence. The stillness itself is the message. The fox watches, it reads the room. It sees the trap inside the flattery, the agenda inside the compliment, the move disguised as generosity. The fox does not react to the surface. It responds to the intention beneath it. What you cannot do is use silence as an escape, when what the moment actually requires is presence. You cannot hide inside stillness and expect it to communicate strength. Stillness only communicates strength when there is something clearly behind it. Here is how to know which silence you are operating from. After you choose silence, how do you feel? grounded, like you made a deliberate decision from a place of power? Or do you feel smaller, like something inside you just contracted, like you gave something away that you are not sure you can get back? That feeling in your chest is not dramatic. It is data. Your body knows the difference between restraint and retreat. Your mind will rationalize the retreat. Your body will report it honestly every single time. Let me show you exactly what this looks like in practice. Someone says something dismissive about you in front of a group. You go quiet. Your eyes drop to the table. Your shoulders shift slightly inward. You redirect the conversation after a moment. Everyone moves on. You tell yourself you handled it with grace. Now the same moment, same words, same room. You go quiet, but your eyes stay level. Your body does not shift. You let the silence sit in the room for just a beat longer than comfortable. Not because you are planning a response, but because you are not rattled. Because what they said has not changed anything about how you see yourself. And everyone in that room can feel that difference. These two silences look almost identical from the outside, but they land completely differently on everyone present. The first one feeds the disrespect. The second one ends it, without a single word spoken. The difference is not technique. It is not a posture you practice in a mirror. It is what is behind the silence. Whether there is a person back there who knows their worth, or an absence where that person used to be. This is where most people get stuck. They try to perform powerful silence before they have built the foundation that makes it real. And people can feel the performance, especially the ones who have been reading you for years. They know when you are composed and when you are suppressed. They know when your silence is a wall and when it is an open door with a welcome mat. So stop trying to perform the silence. Start building what makes it real. Every time you choose not to shrink when someone expects you to. Every time you let someone sit in the discomfort of what they said, instead of rushing to ease the tension for them. Every time you hold your position without explaining yourself, you are building the silence that has actual weight behind it. And here is what that weight does over time. People start self-editing before they speak to you, not because you threatened them, not because you made a speech about your standards, but because somewhere along the way they picked up a signal that you notice more than you let on, that your silence is not emptiness, that something is behind it, watching, deciding, filing information away. That signal is worth more than any confrontation. Because confrontations end, that signal stays in the room with them permanently. The silence that makes people reconsider before they open their mouth next time is not built in one moment. It is built in dozens of small moments where you chose differently than they expected, where you did not flinch, where you did not fill the air to make things comfortable for someone who was not being careful with you. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man speaks less than he knows and acts more than he explains. That is the silence you are building toward. Not the silence of someone who doesn't know what to say. The silence of someone who has absolutely nothing left to prove. Start noticing which one you have been practicing, because one is building your power brick by brick. 3. You call it patience. Machiavelli calls it slow destruction. Nobody disrespects you all at once. That is the part nobody talks about. Because if they came at you all at once, you would see it. You would name it. You would walk away. But that is not how it works. It never works like that. It works like this. Month 1. Someone you care about interrupts you mid-sentence. You think, they're just excited. You let it go. Month 2. A decision that affects you gets made without your input. You think, it's not worth the argument. You let it go. Month 3. They make a sharp comment about you in front of others. Everyone laughs. You laugh too. You think, that's just how they are. You let it go. Month 6. You find yourself bracing before you see them, preparing, running through scenarios in your head so you won't be caught off guard. You don't even notice you're doing it anymore because it has become part of the ritual of knowing them. Month 12. You don't remember having different standards. You don't remember the version of yourself that would not have accepted any of this. That version feels like someone younger, someone who didn't understand how things actually work. This is the slow destruction. And it has a name in psychology. It is called the normalization of mistreatment. Your brain is built to adapt. That capacity is one of the most remarkable things about being human. It allows you to survive loss, hardship, grief. But this same mechanism, this relentless adaptation, also adjusts your baseline for what is acceptable. If conditions around you deteriorate slowly enough, your brain does not sound an alarm. It updates the definition of normal. You don't notice the poison because you drank it in doses so small that each one felt like nothing. And while you were drinking it, you called it patience. You called it loyalty. You called it being the bigger person. Machiavelli called it something else entirely. He wrote that the most dangerous enemy is never the one who attacks you directly. A direct attack is visible. You can respond to it, defend against it, make a decision about it. The truly dangerous enemy is the one who changes the conditions, slowly, patiently, until you forget what normal looked like before they arrived. He warned rulers specifically about this, the advisor who chips away at your confidence, one meeting at a time, the ally who subtly repositions you in the eyes of others over months, the friend who gradually makes you smaller in your own story. These are not accidents. These are the most sophisticated forms of disrespect, because they are invisible until the damage is already significant. Now here is the part that cuts deepest. Your own mind works against you, because the human brain, once it adapts to something, also generates reasons to justify that adaptation. You start explaining their behavior, defending them to yourself, building a case for why what is happening is understandable, temporary, even your fault somehow. They're under pressure. They didn't mean it that way. I'm being too sensitive. This is just what relationships require. Everyone deals with this. These are not thoughts. They are symptoms. They are what the slow destruction sounds like from the inside when it is working exactly as intended. Here is the test, and it is simple, but it will tell you everything. Think of someone in your life right now. The way they speak to you, the way they treat your time, the way they handle what you share with them. Now imagine a stranger, someone you have never met, coming into your life tomorrow and treating you exactly that way from the very first interaction. Would you accept it? If the answer is no, you already know what you have been normalizing. You already know where the poison entered. You just needed the question asked clearly enough that you could not explain it away one more time. The second signal is this. If you are regularly preparing yourself before you see someone, if you are bracing, managing your expectations downward, rehearsing how to navigate them, that is not emotional maturity. That is not being the bigger person. That is evidence that something is deeply wrong, and you have decided it is your responsibility to absorb it indefinitely. You are not built to pre-suffer every time you see someone. You are not built to walk into a room and immediately calculate how to survive the next few hours. The third signal is the one nobody talks about enough: relief. If you feel relief when they are in a good mood, not because you are genuinely glad they are okay, but because it means today might be safe, that relief is a confession your body is making on behalf of your mind. It is your nervous system telling you something that your conscious thinking has refused to say out loud. This is not about blame. This is not about declaring someone a villain. Most of the people who slowly destroy your standards are not fully conscious of what they are doing. But their awareness of the process does not protect you from the impact of it. The destruction is real regardless of whether anyone intended it. Name it. Even if only to yourself. Especially if only to yourself. Because here is what happens the moment you do. The stories you built around their behavior start to crack. The explanations you rehearsed stop sounding like wisdom and start sounding like what they always were: survival mechanisms, ways of staying inside something your gut knew should have ended long before now. You will feel it as grief, before you feel it as freedom. That is completely normal. You are mourning a version of a relationship that may never have existed the way you needed it to. You are letting go of the belief that your patience alone would eventually teach them your value. It will not. It never does. People do not learn to value what they have already learned to take without cost. But the moment you see the slow destruction for what it is, you stop feeding it. And that single shift is where everything begins to change. Drop this in the comments. Say, I refuse to normalize what diminishes me. Because this law is not about anger. It is about finally seeing clearly after a very long time in the dark. 4. Stop defending the person who hurt you. Here is a sentence you have said to yourself more times than you can count. They didn't mean it. And maybe that is true. Maybe they genuinely didn't. Maybe the comment came out wrong. Maybe the timing was bad. Maybe the words landed harder than they were sent. Maybe there was no malice behind any of it. None of that changes what happened to you. This is the part most people get completely backwards. They pour enormous energy into determining intent. Did they mean to hurt me? Were they aware of what they were doing? Should I give them the benefit of the doubt? And while they are running that investigation inside their own head, trying to build a fair and accurate verdict, they are ignoring the only thing that actually matters. The cut is real. Regardless of whether the knife meant to fall, if you step on a nail in the dark, the nail did not mean to hurt you. You still need to pull it out. You still need to treat the wound. The nail's intention is completely irrelevant to your recovery. Disrespect operates the same way. Machiavelli was not interested in people's intentions. He was interested in outcomes. He understood that in the real world, the question of whether someone meant to undermine you is far less important than whether the undermining is happening, and whether you are allowing it to continue while you spend your energy investigating their motives. He wrote that the wise man does not wait for injury to announce itself loudly. He reads the conditions. He responds to what is actually happening, not to what was intended. But here is where this law becomes precise. Because this is not about becoming paranoid, not every uncomfortable moment is an act of war. There is a distinction worth understanding clearly. When you tell someone that something they did hurt you, and they respond by listening, by acknowledging it, by actually changing how they treat you moving forward. That is a person who did not mean to cause harm and proves it through their behavior afterward. That person is worth keeping close. When you tell someone that something they did hurt you, and they respond by making it about themselves, by questioning your sensitivity, by telling you that you're overreacting, or that they were just joking, or that you always do this, that is not a misunderstanding. That is a pattern. That is clear information, not about their intention in that single moment, about what your pain costs them, which is nothing, which tells you everything you need to know about how much they value your experience. The first kind of person did not mean it, and shows you through how they respond when confronted with the impact. The second kind of person may not have meant it either, but they are not willing to take responsibility for what they produced. And that willingness, or the complete absence of it, is the actual measure you should be using. Here is why this matters more than almost anything else in this video. When you focus on intention, you hand the other person complete control over how you process your own pain. Their explanation becomes the thing that determines whether your hurt is legitimate. And people who have been disrespecting you for a long time have had a long time to perfect their explanations. I was tired. I was stressed. You know I don't mean it like that. You're too sensitive. We've been friends forever. You know how I am. These are not necessarily lies, but they are not the point. The point is the pattern, not the single incident, the accumulation, the frequency. The fact that this is not the first time you have had this exact feeling in this exact relationship, and probably will not be the last, unless something changes. One moment is an accident. The same moment 5 times is a decision, even if no one ever consciously made it. Because at some point, they chose not to change, and that choice is more revealing than any intention behind any single incident. Machiavelli taught that you must judge people not by what they claim to have meant, but by the conditions they consistently create around you. Not what they say they intended, what they repeatedly feel. What keeps happening, regardless of how many times you explain or forgive or extend the benefit of the doubt. And when you start judging the cut instead of the knife, something inside you stops apologizing for having been hurt. That is more significant than it sounds. Because one of the quietest ways disrespect survives is by making you feel unreasonable for being affected by it. They plant the question in your mind: am I too sensitive? Am I making too much of this? Am I being unfair to them? Those questions are not yours. They were placed there by someone who needed you to doubt your own experience so they could continue operating without consequence. Your experience is valid, not because you are fragile, because it happened, because you felt it, because you are the one who carried it home and sat with it long after they had forgotten the moment entirely. Stop apologizing for having been cut. Stop building the case for their innocence inside your own mind while you carry the full weight of what they produced. Stop letting their intention become more important than your experience. You are the one who carries what happens to you, not them. They move on to the next conversation. You carry it home, to bed, into tomorrow. That asymmetry alone is reason enough to stop investigating their motives and start taking your own experience as seriously as it deserves. Judge the cut, always the cut, and start paying attention to who keeps holding the knife. 5. The person hurting you knows exactly how much you need them. Walking away from a stranger is easy. You have no history with them, no investment, no version of yourself that was built in relation to them. You close the door and move on without a second thought. But what do you do when the disrespect wears a familiar face? What do you do when it comes from the person you built your understanding of love around? When it is the friend you have known for 15 years? When it is family? When it is the person whose opinion of you still matters, even now, even after everything, in ways that no stranger's opinion ever could? That is where the real test lives. And the people who disrespect you within those relationships, they know exactly where you are soft. Not because they are calculating villains, but because intimacy is information. The longer someone has known you, the more they understand about where you need them, where your confidence has gaps, what you are afraid of losing, what you will absorb to avoid the conversation that might end things. They know. And even without consciously deciding to, they use it. Machiavelli observed that rulers were rarely destroyed by outside enemies. The outside enemy is visible. You can prepare for them, position against them, build defenses. The truly dangerous threat always comes from inside the walls, from the people who have access. Not just to the palace, to the psychology. The people closest to you have access to your psychology in ways no enemy ever could. There is a reason this kind of disrespect is so much harder to respond to. It is not just familiarity, it is attachment. And attachment is not a flaw. It is one of the most deeply human things about you. Your brain is wired to protect connection. The threat of losing someone who matters activates the same neural pathways as physical danger. This is not metaphor. This is how the nervous system actually functions. And the people who matter to you, whether they know it consciously or not, understand that your threshold for them is different, that you will explain their behavior in ways you would never explain a stranger's, that you will wait longer, forgive faster, absorb more, because the cost of losing them feels higher than the cost of being repeatedly hurt by them. That quiet calculation, automatic and mostly invisible to you, is exactly what keeps people inside cycles that should have ended years ago. Here is the question Machiavelli would have asked without hesitation. Are you staying because you love them, or are you staying because you are terrified of what life looks like without them? Those are two completely different things, and the answer changes everything about what you do next. Fear of abandonment does not look like fear. It looks like loyalty. It looks like being someone who does not give up on people. It dresses itself in every virtue you have ever been praised for, and then uses those virtues to keep you exactly where someone else needs you to remain. Machiavelli called this sentimentality placed above sovereignty. When you love someone, or need someone so deeply that you allow them to continuously rewrite the conditions of your own dignity, you have surrendered the throne of your inner world to someone who will govern it according to their needs, not yours. And here is what no one says clearly enough. The people who disrespect you within close relationships are often on some level aware of how much you need them, not because they have analyzed it intellectually, but because they have tested it repeatedly. They have pushed and found you still there. They have crossed a line and found you explaining it away. They have taken more than they should and found you somehow offering more anyway. They know the number, the approximate amount of disrespect you will absorb before you actually leave. And as long as they stay somewhere beneath that number, they never have to change anything. The clearest signal that you are operating from fear rather than love is this. Do you prepare yourself before you see them? Do you brace for it? Do you feel relief when they are in a good mood? Not because you want good things for them, but because it means today might not be difficult. That is not love. That is management. And you should not have to manage the people who are supposed to be on your side. Here is the truth that reframes everything. The people who disappear when you start respecting yourself were never there for you. They were there for the version of you that required nothing in return, that absorbed everything, that stayed regardless of the cost. When you raise the standard, they do not rise to meet it. They exit. And that exit, as painful as it feels, is not a loss. It is a revelation. The relationship finally showing you clearly what it was always built on. The silence that follows is not punishment. It is space. Space where something real can finally grow. With people who do not require you to be smaller to feel comfortable around you. I am not afraid of the silence they leave behind. Because that silence is not emptiness. It is the first sound of your freedom. 6. You are free to disrespect, and everyone knows it. There is an economic principle that most people understand about everything except themselves. Scarcity creates value. Water is more essential to human life than diamonds. Without water, you die within days. Without diamonds, you live perfectly well forever. And yet diamonds are priced as though they are the more precious resource. Not because they are more important, because they are harder to obtain. Human beings apply this exact logic to people, whether they are aware of it or not. When something is always available, the brain assigns it a lower value. Not consciously, not cruelly. It is how we are built. We take for granted what we know will always be there. We pursue what might not be. We protect what we could actually lose. We become careless with what we cannot imagine losing because we have been told, through consistent experience, that it is not going anywhere regardless of what we do. This is why kindness without limits is so often punished. Not because people are ungrateful, though some are, but because when you make yourself unconditionally available, when there is no cost to accessing you, no consequence for crossing you, no edge to your patience, you are sending a signal louder than any words. The signal says, I am not scarce. You do not have to work to keep me. Whatever you do, I will still be here. And people respond to that signal exactly the way markets respond to unlimited supply of anything. They stop treating it as valuable. Machiavelli understood this with complete clarity. He observed that people are far quicker to offend those who inspire love than those who inspire consequence. Because love, endlessly available and unconditionally given, removes the one thing that makes people careful, the real possibility of loss. When there is no genuine possibility of losing you, there is no reason to be careful with you. And when there is no reason to be careful, people stop being careful, not out of malice, out of comfort, out of the quiet confidence that you will absorb whatever comes and remain exactly where you have always been. You trained them into that comfort through consistency, through proving repeatedly that carelessness had no real cost attached to it. Now here is what actually making yourself valuable looks like. Not as performance, not as strategy, as an honest reflection of what your presence is genuinely worth. It starts with your attention. Not everyone gets the full weight of it. Not every message receives an immediate response. Not because you are performing unavailability as a tactic, but because your focus actually goes where it is earned, where it is reciprocated, where it is treated like the limited and genuine resource it actually is. It continues with your forgiveness. Not every offense receives a patient explanation and a second chance, not because you are keeping careful score, but because you have learned that explaining your worth to someone who has already decided not to recognize it is one of the most expensive things you can spend your energy on, and you have stopped spending that way. It extends to your presence. Some people have earned proximity through the way they treat you. Others have earned distance through the same means. And you are no longer pretending these are the same category of person who deserve identical levels of access to you. But the most powerful element of this law is what happens with consequences. And this is precisely where most people collapse completely. Consequences feel aggressive. They feel like punishment. They feel like you are being cold or difficult or unreasonable. So instead of consequences, people choose conversations, explanations, another chance, and another after that. And the behavior continues without interruption, because the behavior has no real cost attached to it. Here is the concrete picture of how this actually changes. Someone in your life cancels plans on you at the last minute. Again, the powerless response is frustration, absorbed or expressed, or both, followed by rescheduling, followed by the exact same pattern repeating itself next time. Because the message clearly received was this: acceptable, no cost, continue as before. The powerful response looks nothing like that. No announcement, no confrontation, no speech about what their behavior means and how it makes you feel. You simply stop organizing things around them. The next time something comes together, they are not included. Not as punishment. As a natural result of a pattern you have quietly decided you are no longer accommodating. When they eventually notice and ask, the response is simple and delivered without heat, without history, without emotion. I make plans with people who confirm and show up. Clean, neutral, completely final. That is not cruelty. That is self-command. That is what it looks like when you stop explaining yourself and start simply living according to your own standards. Machiavelli wrote that the wise ruler relies on what is within his own control, not on what others choose to provide. You cannot control whether someone respects you, but you can absolutely control what they lose when they choose not to. That loss, however quiet and invisible to the outside world, is how genuine respect is actually built. Not through speeches about what you deserve, through the consistent, undeniable experience that being careless with you produces a real and immediate cost that they can feel without any explanation from you. And here is what shifts when you finally live this way. You stop attracting people who were only comfortable with the version of you that had no edges. The ones who needed you, endlessly available, endlessly forgiving, endlessly willing to absorb whatever they brought. Those people will feel the change before you even announce it, and they will not be comfortable with it. Good. The discomfort they feel when you become expensive is not a problem you created. It is proof that the old dynamic required your smallness to function. Now that you have removed that, it cannot function anymore. What replaces it is something many people have never fully experienced: being chosen carefully. Being treated like someone whose presence carries actual weight. Being around people who show up not because you made it impossible for them to leave, but because they genuinely do not want to. That is what expensive feels like from the inside, and it is worth every uncomfortable moment it takes to get there. 7. The moment you stop reacting, they lose all their power. Everything in you wants to respond. When someone disrespects you, every instinct says, say something. Make it clear. Don't let them walk away thinking that was acceptable. Don't give them the satisfaction of thinking they got away with it. And here is what Machiavelli would tell you about that instinct. It is exactly what they are counting on. Every act of disrespect is a provocation, and a provocation only has power if you accept the invitation to engage with it. The moment you respond with visible anger, with the perfectly constructed argument, with the comeback you rehearsed in your head 3 hours later, you have confirmed the one thing they needed to know, that they can move you, that they have that kind of reach inside your experience, that pulling you into reaction is still entirely possible. You just handed them the proof. And proof like that gets used again. Here is the truth most people never reach because the ego refuses to allow it. Your reaction is the reward, not the argument that follows, not the drama, not whatever words eventually get exchanged. The reward is watching you change states, watching you go from composed to wounded, from still to reactive, from certain to rattled. That is what disrespect is ultimately hunting for every time. And when you provide it, you confirm that provoking you is worth the effort, that it produces something, that the investment pays off. When you stop reacting, the provocation has nowhere to land. The move was made and produced nothing visible, and a move that produces nothing is not a power move. It becomes an embarrassment. Machiavelli never advised constant confrontation. He advised something far more precise than that: selective presence. He observed that the most powerful people in any court were not the ones who responded to everything that came at them. They were the ones whose attention felt like a privilege, whose silence felt like a judgment being formed, whose absence communicated something that no argument in the world ever could. When you remove your reaction entirely, you remove the only thing that made the disrespect meaningful in the first place. But there is a deeper layer to this law that most people completely miss. Disrespect rarely happens in private. It happens in front of people, in meetings, in family gatherings, in social circles where others are watching and continuously updating their understanding of who has power and who does not. This is what Machiavelli understood about the internal politics of any room. Power is never only about two people. It is always about who is watching and what conclusion they draw from what they see. When someone diminishes you publicly and you respond with visible hurt, with a defensive argument, with anything that pulls you both down into something reactive and small, the people watching do not see their cruelty. They see your instability. They do not remember what was said to you. They remember how you looked when you heard it. They remember what it revealed about where your edges are. But when you go quiet and then go absent, when you remove yourself without drama, without explanation, without giving anyone the scene they were waiting for, the room registers something entirely different. They feel your decision, not your pain, not your confusion, your decision. The quiet and unmistakable conclusion that this situation was simply not worth the full weight of who you are. Your exit said everything that any argument could not. This is the precise line between retaliation and removal. Retaliation comes from pain looking for somewhere to go. It is reactive. It puts you at exactly the same level as the person who provoked you. It keeps you trapped inside the story they wrote and performing the role they cast you in. Removal comes from clarity that has made a decision. It says, this no longer has access to me. Not announced, not explained, not performed for any audience. Simply enacted with complete calm. No speech, no warning. No final conversation designed to make them understand everything they did wrong. Just the door closing, and you on the other side of it, completely unbothered by whether they understand why. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man does not waste force where withdrawal achieves more. Every move you do not make is one they cannot counter. Every absence you create is a space they cannot fill. Every door you close quietly carries a message that needs no translation and has absolutely no defense against it. You do not need the last word. You do not need them to finally understand what they lost. You need only one thing: to stop being available for what diminishes you. Because power does not argue. Power does not explain itself at the door. Power exits. And sometimes the silence you leave behind when you finally go is the most devastating and permanent statement you will ever make. You know the difference between the silence that builds you and the silence that buries you, and you know which one you have been practicing. You know the name of the slow destruction now. You can see it, and what you can see clearly, you can finally stop feeding. You know to stop defending the person who hurt you and start taking your own experience as seriously as you have always taken their intentions. You know why the people closest to you can reach the deepest. And you know that staying out of fear and staying out of love are not the same decision, even when they feel identical from the inside. You know that as long as disrespecting you is free, it will continue. So you make it expensive, quietly, consistently, without a single announcement. And you know that the moment you stop reacting, you take back every single thing they were using against you. The person who pressed play and the person finishing this right now are not the same. Something shifted. Something that had been quietly accepted for a long time has finally been named, and you cannot unknow what you now see. Disrespect does not die when you fight back. It dies when you stop being available for it. If this reached something real in you, hit the like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, because the next video goes deeper, and drop this in the comments one final time. I am not available for disrespect. You were never meant to be tolerated. You were meant to be reckoned with.